In 1988, DC Comics published Batman the Killing Joke. This is not a video essay about that, so I won't go into details on the story or characters here. If you've read it, you're familiar with it. If you haven't read it, worth checking out. Yeah, so throughout the Killing Joke, the Joker's central thesis really is that everyone, no matter who you are, is one bad day away from becoming a supervillain. And, at least in my opinion, this is actually the case for a lot of the really interesting members of Batman's Rogues Gallery. Sorry, my cameraman is currently trying to eat the camera, as he has been known to do. Right, yeah, think about it. You got Poison Ivy, one bad day, an eco-terrorist. However, I will point out, we stand, she has done nothing wrong in her life, and we love her. Okay? I'll see if I can get my cameraman on camera a little. Come on. There he is. There's my boy. Anyway. You know, Harvey Dent. One bad day, you got Two-Face. Or alternatively, that one Harvey Dent that became Clayface for some reason. Honestly though, the Batman kind of underrated. The thing is though, the same is true for a lot of members of the Bat family. You know, ultimately, Batman became Batman because he lost his parents. Dick Grayson became Robin as a result of a tragic day in which he also lost his parents. Stephanie Brown became the Spoiler because her father was a second-rate supervillain, which is honestly the best origin story in possibly the history of DC. We also approve of Stephanie Brown here. She's also done nothing wrong and we love her. Yeah, so, here's the thing though, right? I believe the same thing is true for video essayists. Todd in the Shadows was just a mild-mannered music reviewer until the whole James Summerton business was like an inciting incident that he veered across 3 lanes of web traffic, went so far out of his lane to just come for the guy, and I respect him a great deal for it. It was very funny. You know, then there's Crowcaller, author and book reviewer. He read a book so fucking confoundingly bad that she made a video essay on it, and, you know, we love him for it. Her content is great, highly recommended, link in the description. Anyway, what I'm saying is that I saw a post online about some bird-watching drama, and it's driven me fucking insane. Now, the good news is that you're getting a video essay out of it. The bad news is that to complete the Killing Joke reference, I do have to shoot you in the spine. And sorry, it's how it goes. Not one, birds. Pretty much everything in this part is cribbed from, Animal Lover Veterinarian, in general, good egg, Tumblr user Great and Small from Tumblr. You know, there'll be a link to their post in the description on the ideal primary source for something like this, but, fuck it, we will. Birding 101 then. You see a bird, it goes on your list. I didn't read far enough ahead in my script, hold on. So, birding 101, right? You see a bird, it goes on the list. Sooner or later, you're going to see all the local birds. So getting a bigger list means travelling further and further afield, but sooner or later, you're going to see the common birds there as well. And the local birds there, so to keep growing your list, you have to keep visiting more and more obscure locations. Make sense so far? Good. Anyway, there's about 11,000 bird species in the world. Big numbers are kind of a big deal in the birding community. And as you see some of them, you're going to have to do shit like climb mountains. Just, little casual mountain climbing for a bird. As you do. Anyway, enter this dude, Peter Kastner. Kastner? I should have looked it up first. So basically, he's the Superman of the birdwatching world, just about. He was set to be the first person to hit 10,000 species, which, pretty big deal. And then, out of nowhere, Jason Mann shows up. Now, Jason Mann shows up on a birding app that isn't one of the well-known birding apps. And he also suddenly nearly hit 10,000 species. On the 9th of February 2024, Kastner records a sighting of the orange-tufted spider hunter, which looks like this. Which, it's a bird. It's very shaped, but not very orange, so I'm guessing it hunts orange-tufted spiders. I don't know. I didn't look too far into specifics of birds mentioned on this video. I just like the name. But anyway, Jason Mann shows up and surprise, he did it first. It's like your friend from childhood who had a Nintendo 65 but wasn't allowed to show you it because his uncle who worked for Nintendo were getting in trouble, It's like, something about that feels a little bit off, a little bit suspicious. So, question is, did he actually do it? Part 2, Mannequin Nature Tours. Actually, can I prop this up there? This part's more of a recap of certain events. Manakin Nature Tours is a company that does bird watching, natural history tours of Colombia, that kind of thing. I haven't done this super closely, just, there isn't a whole lot of looking necessary there. You can see the Wayback Machine, the website's been around since about September 2009, at least. Earliest full usable snapshots 2011. No reason to doubt them, we know they're above board. I didn't really feel a need to look into it beyond that. Anyway, 8th of February this year, 2024, for those of you watching from the future. If you're watching from the past, how? Take me with you. Anyway, on the 8th of February, an article goes up on their website about, quote, one of the best bird watchers in the world, Jason Mann, breaking the world record of being the first person to pass 10k lifetime species in Colombia. Anyway, the article's written by Jason Mann. Look, I had a couple of options for this next shot. I couldn't decide. You're just gonna get both back to back. Yeah. There you go. Anyway, Jason Mann, MD, PhD. So, Great and Small from Tumblr describes the article as having an impersonal AI feel and being shamelessly masturbatory. Real fleshlight of an article, and they leave it at that. I'm going to go ahead and examine it in more detail. The original article is now 404, but hey, Wayback Machine. Thank you, archive.org. Dr. Mann, an American who grew up in Asia before studying at Harvard and discovering a new molecular pathway in cancer, built a successful healthcare investment and advisory business, contributing to more than 100 companies and governments around the world. Jesus Christ, Arthur, please, I'm trying to. So anyway, this is just tracked on LinkedIn, which does back this up. A bunch of workers previously advised to various companies, a couple of venture capital firms, quite about reliable news orgs. It looks like it was sued in 2015, but that's neither here nor there. That's just, Everyone gets sued at some point in America, I don't know what you expect. So basically, it establishes that he's the kind of person that has the money to go around the world looking at birds. Good for him. We approve, we stand. Anyway, the article's no longer live. Manakin took it down and published a statement to the birding community in its place. I've got the full statement linked below, but the gist of it is that they are not signing off on any of the claims he's made about his lifetime birds. They just broke transportation logistics, and they're under fire publishing his article. Which, on one hand, was all outside the remit, but on the other, once it's taken down, they've done all they can. You can't really unsee those birds. They can verify they're a very small part of this whole thing, and you can't really fault them for it. Jason's request that they take the article down, and they quote this email from him. Hi Louis, it's been recently pointed out to me that there were a few errors in my Ergoterra bird list. I'm surprised about this and discovered it here, linked to forum. My sincere apologies for this. I'm certainly past up very close to 10,000, but I'd like to support Peter as the first person to 10,000 birds. I don't want there to be any question, and I see him as extremely deserving. I think it would be best to remove the article from your website and socials. Kind regards, Jason. The email brings me to the next point here, Jason's list.
For it really doesn't matter whom you put upon the list, for they'd none of them be missed, they'd none of them be missed.
You may put them on the list, you may put them on the list, and none of them be missed, they'll none of them be missed.
The good people of Birdforum.net cover this in detail, and I've linked the thread in the description. Great and Small also went through some of them on Tumblr, but I figured I've hit sunk cost fallacy on this by now. I made a look at the oddities Birdforum found on the Ergoterra list. One of a few birding apps, and as I understand, not like one of the main ones. It's like announcing your engagement on MySpace, but not Facebook in 2024. Hang on. Is MySpace still around? Fuck me sideways, I guess. MySpace is still around. It's some kind of music industry site now. But, anyway, Jason's list. So, user Wintybird highlights Jason's sightings of the Manipur bush quail and the New Caledonian nightjar. The last verified sighting of the quail is in 1932. Then, hello Arthur, in 2006, there's a sighting that no one knows if it was the quail or not. Like, it could have been the quail, it could have been a different quail, it could have been a guy in a suit. We don't really know. And then, Jason finds it and records it. The nightjar hasn't been seen since 1939. He also has one of those. A little bit, odd. Anyway, a user called PB Josh highlights the purple-winged ground dove, which hasn't been sighted in about 15 years, maybe more. Then there's the Jordan's Corsa and the Zapata rail. The Corsa was thought extinct until 1986, and is found in one wildlife sanctuary in India, and nowhere else. And the rail is rare enough that Wikipedia doesn't actually, at time of writing, have a photo, only an illustration, and only one nest has ever been found. And also the guy who found it was named James Bond, and James Bond was named after him, which is kind of cool, but, you know, irrelevant to this whole thing. Anyway, around this time, Peter Kastner himself shows up on Facebook and congratulates Mann, and says we're celebrating his own milestone regardless, and several respected friends of his are working on verifying Mann's claim. Honestly, it occupies this very specific point of being very respectable, but also massively throwing shade. It's amazing. Anyway, a couple of posts later, a user called Mathon speeds this section along by listing a ton of suspicious birds, as you can see here. Okay, fine, here's the actual list. Anything not in brackets is almost certainly a lie. I'm not going to list them off just because that's a lot of bird names. Around this point, Mathon highlights some suspicions from Peter's list as well, just to confuse matters. It might be credible based on posts further down the thread. Like, it turns out Peter is, known to be well-travelled. He was in the diplomatic corps at some point, and he had postings in places at times when these birds were sighted, so his list is odd but plausible, and he may genuinely be the forest god of the birding world. We know that he actually was in all these places at all these times, which is pretty cool. He's led an interesting life. Anyway, there's a whole lot of the usual hobby forum arguing and debating and posturing going on for a while. A user called Mark Harper then turns up and finds an old claim by Jason Mann from a 2007 trip to South America, where he saw over 800 different species. A little bit sus. A little bit questionable. It was his second time birding in the Neotropics, and he beat the record for the most birds seen in a trip in Ecuador by the Danish Ornithological Society, which was a multi-person trip, and he saw 19 more species of them on his Odyssey. Previously, he'd just been to Costa Rica. A couple of pages later, guess who shows up? Your boy himself, Jason Mann. So he makes some weird defense of the Ergoterra list. He claims that he X'd out species on his own personal lists that he considered unfindable, which, fair enough. Like, for example, the New Caledonian nightjar. But when he imported those lists, the birds were mistakenly marked as seen, and he didn't catch them all. He ceded the 10K record to his peer, Peter Kastner, but insists that his list is over 99% accurate. We'll come back to that. We will come back to that one. So, to my mind, the interesting thing here is that it mentions having a book implied to be a birding field guide with a publisher. Hypothetically, it's possible that I'd say he inflated his birding claims and tried to claim the 10K first, because it would look really cool in the dust jacket. For legal reasons, I'm not accusing him of doing this. I'm just saying that if I was in a position to claim a large birding milestone and I had a birding book out, I would at the very least consider it. I don't know what it said about me as a person, nor do I care. A bunch of other stuff happens. Peter Kastner shows up to acknowledge his Zapata rail sighting. Probably misattributed, can probably remove from his list. Then a user called Bramblefinch shows up, and they found something weird. So there's 6 European countries where Jason Mann spotted one bird each. Which isn't weird until you factor in that all these birds are in all of these countries and all of them are super common. Like, hang on a second. If I look out my kitchen window right now, I don't see any birds. But the point still stands. I could very conceivably have seen a starling there, which would be one of the ones on there. I also visited North Korea and saw the tiger bean goose. No other birds. Apparently it was just a short trip. Look at a goose. Leave as you do. In fairness, most trips to North Korea these days get documented. Most trips to North Korea these days that get documented seem to be about one weirdly specific thing, like getting a haircut or buying a recipe book. Anyway. So, Jason returns to the thread. He doesn't address this, but he does address the 99% accurate claim. He's considering removing the 500 rare species from the list. So at most, he's 95% accurate, and that 5% has a lot of birds in there. Then there's this whole tangent on the nature of birding that no one can agree on. And does it count if you hear it but not see it, or see it but not hear it? And anyway, At the time of writing this on the 19th, that's still going on. I haven't checked the thread since then. Nor do I feel any particular need to. I feel like everything's kind of been covered there. But here's the thing, right? Jason Mann is, by all accounts, a well-respected and well-regarded doctor-cum-venture capitalist. Why does they feel a need to, on two separate occasions, make completely outlandish claims about his prowess in birdwatching of all things? So, we get to the true meaning of his essay now, the part where I bring it all back to where we started. You thought I was talking about Batman without good reason? Perish the damn thought. We don't invoke the Batman in this household lightly. No, it's my belief that if he existed in the DC universe, Jason Mann would be a respected cancer doctor. Right up until the point he developed a serum that he believed would treat cancer, but that instead turned him into some kind of terrifying half-bird, half-man, half-doctor creature, and went on to terrorise Gotham in the style of, Man-Bat, a typical half-human, half-animal, road gallery type. So, no matter who became the first to record 10,000 bird species, the important thing here is that we all take a great deal of solace from the fact that we don't have to deal with Dr. Birdman holding up the Gotham Bank and, turn security guards there into birds so it can procure the funding to create an birdification raid big enough to hit the whole of Gotham. Look, okay, I know, the Penguin should fund it, logically speaking. They're both bird themed, they should team up, right? That's what Birdman keeps telling himself, right? Dr. Birdman is too proud to ask for a team up though, and Oswald goddamn Cobblepot doesn't work with just anybody. So, back on topic here. Why do they do it? I've run out of script at this point, which is why I'm looking directly at the camera. So, I'm pretty sure personally that this is the same kind of thing as speedrunning. Which seems like an odd tangent anyway. Part whatever. Speedrunning. It's kind of a recognised thing in the speedrunning community that the people that fake runs aren't just the random nobodies. It's going to be the people that are actually good at the game, because it takes a degree of skill and knowledge to fake a run. Like, there was a recent incident in the Pokemon speedrunning community where someone claimed some record from generations 3 and 4, and people were able to work out, just based on his movement at the start of the game, he talked to this one NPC from the wrong direction, which means that he doesn't even know the beginning of the route, and doesn't know what he's doing, despite his claims of practicing for all this time. And then for Gen 4, they're able to... because basically RNG for the first several generations of Pokemon are effectively a solid thing. They're able to work out that based on the way this one NPC moves right in the start of the game, there is no seed for the RNG that gives both that movement pattern and the nature and IVs and the Chimchar that he got as his starter. Honestly, Pokemon speedrunning is cool as hell. A great deal of respect for speedrunners of that game. Similar thing with Trackmania. There was an incident a little while ago where some new, basically anti-cheat software turned up. People looked at existing runs with it and worked out that a lot of them were played effectively at half speed, because it takes a great deal of skill and knowledge to get the racing lines and everything. But just due to various factors, it's not always possible to get all the frame precise inputs. But here's the thing, right? Who is more likely to cheat to get the frame precise inputs? Someone who has only just picked up the game, or someone who's been one frame off 200, 300, 400 times? Right? I believe the same applies to birding. There is a good chance that Jason Mann did go on all these trips and has invested a significant amount of time and money into this hobby of his. Which, pretty cool. Jason Mann has likely invested a great deal of time and effort into this hobby, to the point where I personally would not be surprised if he felt entitled to have seen some of these rare species. He did this whole grand trip through Ecuador and Venezuela, and that kind of thing takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and you're going to want to talk yourself up afterwards. So he maybe exaggerated a few claims of it. I personally would not be surprised if a lot of it was species that he hadn't seen but felt entitled to have seen based on the time and effort he invested. Because here's the thing about bird watching, as I understand it, right? You can know all the best spots, you can go to them at all the right times in the perfect condition to see a certain bird, but the bird will just be somewhere else that day, right? Similar to a level of, similar to the unsolved RNG state in various games, there is no way to account for the action of the bird. Yeah, similar to like the random seed category in Pokemon Gen 4, which is what the guy mentioned earlier with the Chimchar incident was running. Personally, I would not be surprised if Jason Mann just feels like he was entitled to a degree to have seen the birds that he claims to have seen, in much the same way that a runner that got the trick right 2,000 times only to have something unrelated later in the run that they had no way of accounting for screw them over. You know, that feels to me like the most likely scenario, because however, I will point out, again, this is largely from the forum thread and Tumblr either great and small. By the time you get to like that side of a list in the birding world, people know who you are. Like, there was someone mentioning in passing that the guy at like number 10-ish in terms of the biggest bird list does tours to birding spots, and this guy was lucky enough to be on some of these tours. You know, they are basically, to other birders, absolute goddamn rock stars, and good for them. You know, it's a niche community, but I dig it. And no one knew who this guy was. Which, you know, already a little bit shady, but it's possible that he's doing all this stuff independently. But then there's also people in the thread, tour guides and such, that say that, no, some of this stuff is purely local knowledge. A foreigner would not know where to look for all the good spots because they're so far off the beaten track, off the formal trails, this, that and the other. So ultimately, as I said, the important thing basically is that Jason Mann is just being slightly weird on the internet and not, you know, calling the mayor of Gotham to hold the sea to ransom with his embirdification ray that Oswald Cobblepot finally agreed to fund after they got over their earlier issues with one another due to ultimately their shared love of birds. Because if one thing holds true, it's that birds conquer all. I've seen enough Alfred Hitchcock movie to know that.